But the way I look at it, there's two ways of living. You can live in the mind, which is where most of us are. We've been blessed with this gift of the roro, the hinengaro. But as a species, we've never really been taught how to use it. And that's why one of the reasons why a lot of people get stuck in cycles, because they're projecting what they know from their past to their future. And so what if there was a different way to make decisions, a different way to move through life, a different way to be? And instead of the mind being in the driver's seat, it becomes more like the research assistant. And we go back to cycles. You say, how do we practically get out of cycles, or why do people repeat? It's because they are avoiding these cycles from completing. Is this experience expanding me, or is it causing me to retract? Am I opening in this journey or in the presence of these people? Am I retreating? Like, the truth is, bro, there's nothing wrong with anybody except they don't know who and what they are. There's actually nothing. You don't need to heal nothing. You just need to realign to what you already are.
Kia ora te whānau, we're live here in the Planting Seeds podcast for our Seeds of Life wānanga. And we've got a beautiful crowd out here. We've been here for just under 24 hours, but it's been cool to be here at O Tamarako and have our whānau here with us. And just the amount of connection, growth, shifts that have been unfolding just in this short amount of time. And our next guest is someone who has been a part of Kaupapa that I've created, and someone who has been a part of Planting Seeds on a few occasions. But it just felt fitting, to do a live podcast session, because the majority of our whānau who are here have come from the podcast, or people who have been connected to the wānanga, and for the guest to be someone who knows all about this space, and also is someone who I admire a lot and who has things to share. And so, Brother Nick, no mai hoki, my brother.
Kia ora, my bro. As always, a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to do it this way with some whānau, observing, collecting a bit of extra mauri as we kōrero. I was talking about earlier in our porohita that this kaupapa has been a catalyst for my journey, for my venturing into te ao Māori, wairuatanga, and just really grateful to be here, my bro. Thank you.
Yeah, mean brother, happy to be here, because the main intention for this wānanga has been connected to authenticity and being. And we've had a lot of conversations more recently about that whole, we went through the power of now saga, which is connecting to the present moment. Then we've gone into the whole manifestation, but then also it's led to all of these other different experiences. And now it almost feels as though to be authentic is to let go and to surrender of everything that you thought you almost have been told to do, or how to even interact or be a part of things, which is a complete flip, bro. So it feels new, but it feels super familiar in terms of there's a resonance there. And the reason why I feel having this kōrero with you is because of those conversations, but you've been practicing it for a while, and practicing is probably even the wrong word. There's been a living of it. And so let's talk a little bit about what that is, bro, being, authenticity, and our journey towards connecting to that more, or being that more.
Yeah, bro. But the way I look at it, there's two ways of living. You can live in the mind, which is where most of us are. We've been blessed with this gift of the roro, the hinengaro. But as a species, we've never really been taught how to use it. And so most of us get lost there. Most of us spend all our time there, or we're constantly trying to cover up the moment, just being afraid of being still. And it's not that most people are afraid of boredom, or they're afraid of stillness. They're afraid of seeing the truth, or feeling the truth of where they are at that moment. And so this world we live in these days, there's distractions, addictions, all kinds of things to take you away from yourself. And I think a good place to start is the truth is, and I say this humbly through my own experiences, that most of us don't actually even know who and what we truly are.
Yeah.
And so even our name, our culture, all the beliefs we have through our upbringing, it's all conditioning. My name's Nick, but am I Nick?
Yeah.
Nick's just a sound.
Yeah.
I'm not that sound. I'm more than that. My essence is more than that. If my name changed, my essence wouldn't. So what and who and what am I really?
Yeah.
And because of the mind and its desire to help us to survive. It means it's constantly operating through the lens of fear, through the lens of scarcity, through the lens of survival. And it ends up trying to play a game I'm sure most of us can relate. It's trying to control literally the uncontrollable life.
Yeah.
And I said it earlier in the porohita, it's like swimming against the current of life, because when you're here, you can't think and be in the moment. You can't think and be a part of experience itself. And that's where life is. Life is in the moment, and life is an experience. It's not thinking about it. It's not analyzing it. As soon as you're analyzing it, like I'm here with this table. Man, that's a nice table. That would look mean in my house. I've just gone to my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not even with the table anymore. I'm in my house, and I'm with a projection of the table. And so the way that you access life, the moment, yourself, living intelligence, God, to call that Modi, whatever you want to call it, but there's an essence that we all possess that is I was gonna say common. It's common, but yeah, I'm not an expert at this part, whether we have our own little flavor of it or not.
Yeah,
but there's no denying that there's a living intelligence, an energetic force that flows through all of life. Even this table, something we would perceive as not being alive, has energy that holds its atomic structure together. There's electrons and shit spinning around on it right now, and we say it's not alive. And so this intelligence weaves through everything. And when you're in the mind, you lose connection to this. And this connection, it's you. It's the true you. It's the interface to the rest of life. It's the access point to the moment. And when you start moving from this place, which the only way to access it is through feeling.
Yeah.
And when you start moving from this place, you're back in flow with the hour of life. You're back in flow, back in natural order. And I say natural order, and that's a really important point, because we're the only species on Earth that doesn't live this way. We've been blessed with this mind, but the curse, it's not really a curse, we just don't know how to use it. We live there, we've put it in the driver's seat. We try to make all our life decisions with our mind, but our mind is limited by our experience, what we know, and the best our imagination can do, what we can project.
What is creating that projection as well, eh?
Yeah.
You know, it is that experience, so it's never really you.
Yeah. Well, and that's why one of the reasons why a lot of people get stuck in cycles, because they're projecting what they know from their past to their future.
Yeah.
And so what if there was a different way to make decisions, a different way to move through life, a different way to be? And instead of the mind being in the driver's seat, it becomes more like the research assistant. It helps collect data. It can help do logical things and analytical things. But then what if instead of deciding logically, which is limited, like I said, by your experiences and your projections, why not instead tap into the intelligence that created all of life?
Yeah. Going straight into the source, eh?
Aye.
And it takes getting out of the mind and into feeling to be able to, like, is that the same as like intuition?
Yeah, aye.
You know, or is it that inner self, that inner voice? And what I mean by that is, like, you know, we've had people kōrero here, our wānanga, and, you know, there's perhaps these things that are going on in life. And one of the things that I shared to everyone is like, you know, like, although there's like smoke and mirrors or like shiny lights or whatever's happening, like there's this part of you that does know. But we just haven't created the passage for that to be clear comms or given a clear clarity to then enact it. And I want to double back to the name thing and the identification thing. And I went through this period of my life, you know, I was plant-based Māori. You know, I was vegan, I had a whole business out of it, and then I was alcohol-free, and I had like a lot of attachment to these labels or to these identifications that I created for myself. And there was a few things. One, I liked it. And the other thing was I liked that other people liked that I was doing it. And so there was this whole feeling that made me create like a strong attachment to these parts of myself. And then a few little gems popped in, bro. And like one of those gems was like a challenge, you know, from someone that I admired. And, you know, he said, oh, why are you even doing all of this? You know, why are you even going hard? And I just said all of the reasons, bro, but then it led to the core driver, which was I was afraid of going backwards. And then that created another wānanga, which is instead of being attached to, it's detaching from who I think I am or other people think I am and connecting to who I truly am. And so that took me down this other road, and it was like, bro, if I started eating meat again, does that make me a bad person? The answer came clear as day. I was like, no. If I drink alcohol again, does that make me a bad person? Same again, answer, clear as daylight, no. And so that's when my whole shift of attachment to these labels started to become real for me, because if I could connect to who I truly am, it doesn't really matter what I do from that, and I don't get so caught up in other people's judgments because of where things are coming from now. And so I just wanted to double back on that, because that's an important part, that we are so caught up in these whole ideas that, one, we've created for ourselves, or two, other people's thoughts or opinions have led us on these on these pathways that aren't fully like authentic or true to us.
Yeah. They're like labels. You're plant-based Māori, you don't eat meat, you don't drink. Those are just stories.
Yeah.
Well, that's all they are. They're like, even me being Nick, that's just a story, a very short one, but that's just a story. And stories over time solidify into beliefs, and then beliefs become the boundaries of our experience, the boundaries of our universe, and if I'm a mama, then I have to be this certain way about my kids, and I drive a certain car and I think practically. If I'm a mechanic, I think differently. These labels, identity is valuable in this world because we hear and we associate with other people with identities too, but they're limiting, and boundaries can be a good thing too. You can have a belief around certain things that aren't good for you, aren't good for your family, and so we say for example, we don't eat, as a whānau, we don't eat KFC, McDonald's, Burger King, those kind of takeaways anymore.
Yeah. And
so you could argue that's created a healthy boundary, but whichever way you look at it, it's these things limit your experience. And I think where I'm going with this is the majority of the time, a lot of these stories started at such a young age, before 7 years old, when our subconscious is wide open and our stories are getting written for us by our environment. And then we don't even remember being told them. It's just the way the world is. Money doesn't grow on trees, or love looks like fighting every night or every other night, or life's tough, or whatever. These stories get embedded in our subconscious. And then they're like those, off that movie Inside Out, those emotions that just pull levers, and we're not actually in control. And so it's a kōrero or whakaro that I've thought deeply about in the past, is like the idea of free will. If you have conditioning, you don't really have free will. You've got these drivers that are subconsciously making decisions for you that, unless you've done some really deep work, you likely don't even know it.
Yeah.
And it can be so subtle, and it's the subtle ones that are hardest to find, the hardest to uncover.
And then there's also those things that happen, and we've had a lot of our whānau here, and looking beautiful as ever, I must say. How's the chat so far, whānau? Enjoying it? Make it. What I was getting to is like, there is an awareness in this space here at the wānanga, and the awareness is the cycles. And the cycle is, man, I've gone through this before, or I've been here before, or there's been things that have happened in my life, and there's a repetitive nature of cycles.
Yeah.
And then there's also this recognition of being like, man, I don't want to keep repeating this. So aligned to the kōrero that you've been sharing, and aligned to what you've heard from our whānau, what are some of the things to then recognize, okay, I know that I'm in a cycle. I want to get out of it because it's not a good experience. And I know we've spoken about it in a way where it's like, what would it look like to detach from cycles altogether?
Yeah.
And that's, I'm being heavy about growth for many years, and I've been heavy about healing for many years. But each and every time, there's always going to be something to heal, and there's always going to be something to grow through.
Yeah.
And what I'm meeting each and every time is who I already am.
Yeah.
So like there's for me, the breakthrough was like, like, it's not that I'm ignorant to healing, or that I'm ignorant to growth, but it's just that whole mind and the pursuit and that whole way of going about it is, I think, where I'm looking to evolve, which is really remembering into the moment of being rather than trying to be something to then be, if that makes sense.
No, I got you, bro. Yeah, it's a big kōrero. So, like, a lot of it starts with not knowing who and what you are, as I sort of touched on at the beginning. And then because we are so mind dominated, we're trying to solve these problems, as I touched on, with old knowledge. So there's subconscious programming, which we touched on, which I mean, like the hinengaro is actually the name for the subconscious mind. And it's the unseen hine, the feminine that drives us without us really realizing it. And so there's all of that. But then a common practice for in today's healing spaces and growth spaces, and I don't know why I'm doing that, but but one of the traps I see is, you know, always growing. Growth never stops. The healing journey never ends. And first of all, that's a story. And now that you believe it, well, that's the story that you're writing for your story,
which is the conditioning,
which conditioning.
Then is another way of, like, you're conditioning your mind to be that way. So it's always going to be seeking that. Yeah,
and that's also the evidence that we see. Like, I'm not preaching from some mountaintop where I'm completely healed and I don't have my own distortions and trauma and things like that. But through what I've been learning in a container called the Living Intelligence, or the Academy of Living Intelligence. Just shout out quickly to Amanda Lee Etta and Philip Etta, husband and wife, who have come across this way of being. Amanda Lee, through her own suffering, being on her own deathbed and basically surrendering to that. And then, and I won't go into all her story, but I guess the way that life, living intelligence, Wairua, God held her. And then made drastic changes in her life physically, and just the way she moves now. Like Amanda Lee lives in Canada, so I've never met her kānohi ki te kānohi, but everything I hear, see, feel from afar, she lives in the moment. And then her husband, Philip, again, without telling their story too much for them, he come from a background of being a bit of a hotshot in New York City, and he knew a lot about spirituality. He knew how to make money through it. He used to sell meditations, and he did really well in different things, kind of pivoting from one career to another. But anyway, he's kind of, through Amanda Lee's reflection, recognizing how much conditioning he carries, how he reacts to her when she's emotional and causes her to shut down, and the feminine wants to rage and be free, and this tāne is unable to hold that space, and so that enrages the feminine further. In modern society, conditioning say, yo, chill, like, you know, we're not supposed to keep yourself together. You know what I mean? And as women, there's sort of that. The feminine, in many ways, societally and all over the place, has been suppressed. And this is going back to, you know, why we can't connect to the feeling state within us, because that's a feminine way of being. To surrender to whatever's arising within you. And then for most of us, because we've had, I would argue probably all of us, unless you're already enlightened or embodied, there's distortion that you got to wade through before you can get to the still waters beneath. And that distortion is,
I reckon, that's building that kind of maturity in the feeling state of it, though.
Yeah.
You know, like going through that, because usually when you hit that distortion or like that uncomfortability, probably a language that whānau who are listening could relate to, is as soon as you get that uncomfortable feeling, that's when you just automatically go to your coping mechanism. Whether it's running, whether it's those things that you're saying at the start, but it's what you're saying is actually that uncomfortable feeling is the way. You know, it's actually sitting in it. And we had like a lot of kōrero last night, and you know, it was like over 2.5 hours, but it was just amazing because the kōrero is like every time you come into the wānanga, you know, we all have an opportunity to kōrero. And one of the things that I encouraged everyone to kōrero about was, you know, you can talk about anything in here. Like you can talk about your highs, you can talk about your lows, or there's no judgment. But the main thing that I actually led it to was, if you've gone through some tough things, sit in that, bathe in it. And we all bathed in it together. And it was like, because usually you want to save yourself in that space, which is, this is what I've gone through, but this is what I've got out of it. So you go to the lesson straight away. So you're not giving yourself time to
turn it to a positive.
You turn it into a positive. You see the polarity in it right away because you can see that. But we all just sat in it. And it was like, what you're saying, you know, was that feeling through it rather than trying to avoid it or run away from it.
Yeah, bro. There's heaps of places we can go here, but so first of all, I don't think most people know how to sit in it. Like you can, like what it looks like to a lot of people sitting in it looks like depression. Yeah, and that's not truly, like if you're truly in depression, you're in a cycle of playing negative movies. This is my perspective of it anyway. I'm not, you know, no trained doctor, but what I perceive is a cycle of negativity in our mind, which cycles negativity in our body, feelings. And because we keep it mental, that cycle never truly completes. And what I mean by that is the feeling itself, they're messengers. And we go back to cycles, you say, how do we practically get out of cycles, or why do people repeat? It's because they're avoiding these cycles from completing.
Do we get that? We're avoiding the cycles from completing, whānau.
Yeah.
We're avoiding it from completing.
Which is to avoid yourself. Because you, the true you is beneath that. That's the truth of where you're at now, energetically, but that's not the truth of your essence. So you got to honor the truth of where you're at to get to the truth of who you are, and what you are. And so that's why cycles repeat, bro. And
that's mean, because like the reason why that like really landed is because, as you say, like when we're going through certain experiences in life and we catch the cycle, but as you say, we've gone through it mentally, and then we've almost like stopped ourselves from going through it in the feeling state because we've always ran away, or we've like had these coping ways of going through it, that when you said the cycle isn't completed, it was just like, fuck, bro, like I could see it in my own life, and I'm sure like whānau out here could too, is because that hits, bro, you know, because it's a buzzy phenomena, bro, when you're at that point of like, hey, I've been through this before and I thought I learned the lesson. And like, holy hell, we here again, you know, and that's like a shocking feeling because there's this, perhaps like ignorance is coming up. It's that, you know, thinking that I've got it all sorted, or it's like, nah, I've done the mahi now, it won't happen again. And then all of a sudden it comes up. And so what can you speak to in regards to that? You know, does it align to what you're saying? Like, have I failed to, you know, because I've been talking about finances and my struggles with that, and I opened up in detail last night about it. But like using me as an example of like how this actually looks, what are you seeing, and what do you feel is the blockage there, or the incompleted cycle?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's conditioning around money, the way you view money. Your relationship with money, you know what that is, or you may know what that is, I don't. But I would assume it's something around lack, scarcity, or even some people have the belief that money's bad. And so they don't, like, guess what happens to things
I'll tell you what it
like?
is. What I feel, no, I'm saying what it is. It's only ever having enough, which is now which is the base.
Yeah.
You know, it's only ever having enough. So every time that I would get to an abundant state, like it just goes back down to only ever having enough.
Yeah.
And so that's the conditioning, you know, like experiencing that through mum and dad, and then even just having my own trying times, and then now having my own family, and then it's like that's the belief in the relationship.
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is, it's not even really about money. It's about, this is why I was saying all your problems, well, I don't know if I said this here, but I said it earlier, all your problems stem from the lack of this connection to living intelligence to yourself, because you don't. So
you're telling me I got to do more work? Nah.
Well, we'll get there.
I'm joking. I'm ready for it, but it's like, you know.
But it's
because like in that moment though, whānau, like you're doing the mahi, and then it just still feels like you're climbing. Feels like you're still trying, and you're nowhere near the top. And so, that's like a familiar kind of feel. It's like, dang, I gotta just keep showing up.
Yeah. Well, and it's I would argue or assume that it's to do with, again, there's limitations in most of the healing and growth space. And most of the time when we have an unhealthy habit, like maybe we drink too much, maybe we argue too much, few vapes, whatever it is. The way we've been taught how to solve that is to bring a new conditioning. So go to the gym instead. You gave up being the plant-based Māori, and you went into personal development, and that all looks good. Even these things, these outward things that we do, but still what we're really doing, the fuel of all of it is lack of connection. And we think we've found this path, but if we're moving from disconnect, everything we create is distorted with it, and it's doomed to fail to an extent.
So how do we get there, bro? How do we get to this being, this connected self? Like, take us there, because if we can get there, which is the start of the majority of things, is like everything happens with that disconnect. So in order for things to happen, we've got to connect. So take us there, bro. Like, what are things that you've seen or used that have been helpful to feel more connected to self?
Sweet, bro. Well, before I do, I'll just quickly go into your thing a little bit more, because it's not really about money. It's a inner state of lack, and it's tied to money, because money is the currency of living and power that this world has created for you. So it's just moved into money. Your own lack or your own scarcity belief system is just tied itself to money. If we didn't have money, it would tie itself to something else.
Okay.
So money, like a relationship, like challenge, like going into business or raising kids, it's just a mirror to show you where you're still not connected or you're not free. Correct. And money's a really common one for the reason that, I could go deep into this, but money literally is built on scarcity. The way that the system has created it, I won't go down this path too much, but with the way the banking system is in inflation, the money you hold loses value every day. And so we're all out here trying to chase a dollar. It's like chasing a bucket with a hole in the bottom. And we're chasing something that's like going backwards all the time. And anyway, that's another story. But so how do we get to the being? Well, first of all, you got to value it. And to value it, you got to see the disease in the current operating system. You got to see how moving from disconnection led you to chase that partner that wasn't really right for you, or do the business from a scarcity mindset, which caused you to chase money instead of truly making impact, or not being confident in yourself to leave a relationship because you feel alone. The whole fucking society that we live in is built on anti-life systems out of accordance with natural law, and it all stems from our internal being separated. We're living here instead of from here, and you can see it fucking everywhere. Like,
so you're saying, and to get there first and foremost is to value that based on what you've gone through.
To value living in the moment and living connected to your modi versus living in the mind, living in scarcity, living in the same cycles, and then even like, you could be like a personal trainer with your own business, killing it, and it looks like you're doing well, so you won't get confronted with the mirrors so much. But if you were still started that whole journey because you've got the scarcity disconnection to begin with, well, it's almost worse than hitting rock bottom, because it can trap you there. Right. And you never truly find who you really are, what your true purpose is. And that was another kōrero that came up inside, like, I'm wanting to know what I want to do next and what my purpose is, and I have this conflict around why I want to do it this way or that way. The disconnect is not being connected here to living intelligence, to your true essence, because from there only certainty can come. there is no doubt there,
Yeah.
because doubt comes here.
It's the knowing.
Aye, and it's not knowing like you know everything.
Yeah.
It's knowing that you know who you are, you know that life supports you when you move in the right direction, and you know you'll move in the right direction when you move from here. That's the knowing.
Feel that, whānau. Feel that. One thing that I was like hard out list, like coming up for me as you're talking, is just how, you know, there's frequencies to every state. You know, and we've spoken about it too, but like authenticity is the highest.
Aye.
Which is the same as like what we're talking about here, you know, like being connected to ourselves when we're in that state. It's the highest frequency that we can actually vibrate at or be in. And so, in truth, in that. And so, like for everything that, you know, we're speaking about, such as to connect to that is to value that being and being in the moment over being in the mind. Now, what is the major challenge in there, bro? And like the main thing that comes to mind, I've got one more question after this, is that way of being is like cement. You know, I was talking to the sister Letitia, and we're talking about ways of being and being in particular states, and I shared with her some of the kōrero from Joe Dispenza. And he said we are often addicted to certain states that we have been in because that's been the identity and that's been the state of mind. So every time we look to move out of that into the being, let's say, into the better part of ourselves or more connected, there's this thirst to be able to like go back into what's familiar because that's been the conditioning, the cemented way of being for a long time. And so what's some kōrero in regards to that, bro, around one, recognizing that, but then moving more into a more connected being state?
Yeah, a way to know if you're moving in accordance with natural law, the river of life, whatever you want to call it, God's plan. Is this experience expanding me, or is it causing me to retract, to close? Am I opening in this journey, or in the presence of these people, or in this place, or am I retreating? And sometimes, you know, like conditioning can cause that. But a couple of things I want to touch on, or one thing I want to touch on, is it's not actually you that wants to go back to that conditioning. It's the conditioning that wants you to go back to the conditioning.
Yeah, true.
And I call it the parasite.
Oh, yes.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's something. The parasite feeds off the life force of something else because it can't self-sustain itself. And so when we're disconnected, you'll notice we extract. So we need love from our loved one. We need our kids to love us a particular way. Like we need our external to remind us or to prop us up that we're good, you know? And that's not necessary when you're connected, when you know who you are, because you just feel it.
And you are.
Yeah. And this is funny, bro. Like, you know, we're all here in a podcast that are wānanga trying to learn how to be.
Yeah.
Do you think the tree needs to learn how to be? Do you think the bee needs to learn how to be? Do you think the lion needs to learn how to be? Like, we're the only ones trying to learn how to be human, bro.
Yeah.
We don't know how to be fucking human.
Crazy.
and it's crack up, bro. And so but it's part of the gift that we've been given, because most, like the rest of the animal kingdom, for example, or the tree, well, I guess I don't know 100%, but my
no, the tree might actually want to be a bark, bro. No, I actually heard, bro, wants to be a stone.
but it's just funny because we're the only ones that have forgotten. Oh, that's where I was going, bro. But the blessing that we have is that the tree, the bee, all these other beings, I think they're connected, bro. They're already connected. This is where they live. We're the only ones who don't. And so it sounds like, how do you plan your day with your kids, not like living from intuition? How do you build a business living from intuition? Well, look at the ngāhere, look at the moana. When it's left, when nature, living intelligence is left to its own devices, its synergy, its balance, it's perfect. It's only the human mind, that pulls it out of it because it's afraid and because it's trying to control everything, trying to extract to make us safe. But my point is, the beauty of what we've been gifted is none of those other things, at least to my knowledge, they're not aware they're connected. They just are. And that's a gift. But we get to go through the journey of experience the separation from life, from God, from Maori, whatever you want to call it, and remember. And then once we remember, that's a higher level of consciousness. And that's what I believe humanity's purpose is.
Yeah. There's a thought that comes to mind as you're talking too, bro, because, you're talking about these other potential ways of living, which is like, someone who uses their lack to get success or being in these cycles of healing and growth. The reality is that they are all pathways, and those are all pathways that people are living.
Yeah.
What is being spoken about on this table is just a different way of approaching, which is a remembrance. It's more of a remembrance rather than an outward kind of like chase or looking to be something, whatever. It's just like just reversing flipping how we think we needed to be upside down in a way of coming from in rather than moving out. And I just want to give whānau a few moments, because after this question, after Nick answers it, we're going to come out and you fellas not have to, but want to encourage some questions. Kapai? So to finish us off here, bro, on our side, before we answer some questions to the whānau, I want you to talk about that model that you've created, bro. We've got circles, right? And the way that I interpret it is it's where like focus and attention is going in that being. And so, can you talk about what that is, please, brother?
Super. And I'll try to weave this because I feel like we didn't, Handi, finish your question about how do you get there as well, right? Like it's actually ridiculously simple. The only thing that makes it hard is all the conditioning that we have. But as you're sort of touching on, it's our innate way of being. It's the natural way of life. It's only this thing that gets in the way. So yeah, I'll kind of weave the two, but I don't know that I created this. I've just kind of framed it through my own experiences this particular way. And it came about because I started a mentoring company, and I called it Origin Mentoring, by the way, because the whole purpose is to guide people back to their own origins, to be their own mentors, really. If you've got a good mentor, you shouldn't need them forever. And then I was doing this, and then I know all this stuff, all this kōrero that I'm talking about, and I'm embodying it more and more over time. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to launch. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to release this course. And then Renee and I have a fight. Fucking cycles. and then I'm trying to teach Renee, and she shuts down, doesn't want to listen. And then I'm like, fuck, who am I to be a mentor out there if those closest to me, if I haven't got my own shit in line enough that those closest to me don't want to sit at the table with me? My kids or whatever, right? And so I'm like, okay, there's a code here. Well, first of all, my belief, the natural order of union with the masculine and feminine energies is for, well, each of us really to mirror to each other the deepest wounds that we have in order to cleanse us of them, in order to be whole as individuals and as a codependent unit. And so that's the purpose of relationship, is to remember your truth. People say evolve, and I don't love that either, because that suggests, like, the truth is, bro, there's nothing wrong with anybody except they don't know who and what they are. There's actually nothing. You don't need to heal nothing. You just need to realign to what you already are. You don't need to grow into anything to be worthy of anything. You already are. And then any growth from that is simply useful. Like, it's just useful. People put their value in what they do, but that's not who they are. You're a great teacher, you're great at whai kōrero, you're great at haka, you're great at kōrero, like talking. But none of that's who you are. Those are just things you do. And we've been conditioned to put our worth in things we do. Yeah. But you already are. If you start from that basis, imagine what you can create. I heard some people say in the wānanga, imagine coming to a wānanga where when you got your shit together and you don't have all this drama going on, and then you're in your glow up, when you're glowing, it's like building from there instead of building from lack and scarcity. Yeah. And so the framing that I came up with through my own experience of trying to be a mentor and my own whānau going, nah, bolt.
Sort it out, brother.
Yeah, hard. Is to start in the center. Imagine dropping a rock in a pebble in a lake, in a still
about
lake.
My purpose right here, brother.
Yeah, that's it. And the first where it drops, it creates the first ripple. And that first ripple is you and your connection to self, God, living intelligence, your true essence, whatever you want to call it, your own knowing, your own intuition. That's where it starts. And if you're not there, and I got to say, like, I'm still not there all the time. It's something I come in and out of, but I've experienced it and tasted it.
Yeah.
Right. But being there, you automatically know your next step. If you're looking for your purpose, the mind wants to solve your career options for the next 10 years. The mind wants to know, that you're going to be okay if you go this way versus that way. Doesn't work like that. It works like when you're here centered, the moment presents to you the next step. Yeah. It's always right in front of you. And usually it's one of those repetitive cycles, like for me within my relationship, that keeps coming up that you haven't allowed the cycle to complete yet. Yeah. Usually that's what I call the lily pad to step on. Usually. But if you're there, it'll present itself no matter what. It's always there. And there's always only one. It's not complicated. It's actually fucking simple. And then once you're there, step on it. Move. And then do the same thing again. And maybe we'll talk, I'll weave it in. How do you get there? It's simply a process of opening yourself physically and energetically so that you can feel the energies, the tensions, whatever you're carrying within you. And if you do it when you're like, in a pretty good mood, you might feel like you're doing fuck all. It just feels nice and relaxing. Do it when you're energized, when you're triggered, angry, sad. You'll find it's like, especially anger is a real obvious one, you'll tense. And then actually I'll share my own experience. One of the biggest fears I've faced throughout my life is fear of judgment. Like coming on here and having a kōrero and years gone by, I'll be nervous about how I'm perceived, how good a job I'll do and put my worth there. And it was about a year ago, before my sister's 21st, I was mentally rehearsing my speech and I was going to be leading a haka and all this different stuff. And I started to get a bit anxious just in the night before, just practicing in my head. I was lying in bed at the time and this immersion that I learned, the way of accessing your modi, the living intelligence that runs through all life, is the best way to go deepest is to lie flat on your back and just open yourself. So mentally or through your attention, you're just looking for tension, looking for area. Everyone can do it with me now if you want to. You can do it sitting. You can. The idea is to live here, right? So you do it with your eyes open, driving the car, whatever. But notice how much tension you carry all the time, just driving, clenching your puku, clenching your jaw, like holding your shoulders up, whatever it may look like. And instead of doing that, first of all, your consciousness of being aware of it brings you into the moment and you're no longer in the mind. And then the feeling state, using your senses, you just start to open yourself. And it starts off physical because you'll notice, oh, fuck, I didn't even know I did that with my shoulders. I didn't even know I did that with my puku. And then as you get better or as you go deeper, you'll start to notice energetic blockages. And then you go, and it's really obvious when you're triggered, right? And you feel into this thing. So for me, the night before my sister's 21st, I used to get like a fire. You'll remember me talking to you about it, bro, like a fire in my solar plexus, my puku, this fear of judgment. And it's caused me to freeze up in the past. It's caused me to, think about what are they thinking about, and then really it's just you thinking about yourself, and they actually got nothing to do with it. But it used to cause this fire within me, and I don't actually know where it came from, but it must have come from some experience when I was young. And then this time I just noticed how fucking tense I was, and so because I was already on my back and I'd already been learning about this, I go, okay, this is probably like 5 weeks into I think it was a 10-week course, and I just opened myself to it instead. And bro, like it was, like my whole body went on fire. Instead of it staying localized there, it just went boom. And tears started pouring. I felt like spewing, but I stopped myself because I was in bed. But it was like a purge, bro. And this is an intense one. I don't want everyone to think, like, this is what it's going to be like. Because everyone will experience it differently depending on what they're carrying and all that sort of stuff, right? But this is an example of what can happen and what happened for me. And so I felt like I bathed in the fires of my worst fears. And I survived. And I was like, oh shit.
Still here?
Yeah. That wasn't so bad. And then the funny thing is, bro, so what it does, there's so many things that can happen. So this one, going back to, I sort of stopped this kōrero earlier too, is these feelings are messengers. They're data, information, mātauranga, that you've yet to receive because the world's full of ways to numb yourself or to avoid them. And I think like that's the way the world's set up intentionally. But anyway, it's also kind of what we manifest ourselves by living here. And so instead of avoiding, instead of clenching, open yourself. And what happened for me was a massive energetic shift. Like I just took a backpack of bricks off my shoulders. So my energetic capacity increased so that I could face greater obstacles with more ease. I could do the same things. Like I don't get nervous before this podcast at all. Whereas probably the first 3 or 4 I did with you, my bro, I still remember that one I made us re-record. Yeah. Because it was about presence and I wasn't even present. and that's been because of this, bro, because I bathed in it and it purged. And so energetic capacity increases. Also, the fog lifts, bro. So the lenses that you used to see the world in through fear, through scarcity, that's not there anymore. So you can actually see reality. And like, for example, in a relationship setting, you know, you might have the same patterns repeating, and your partner gets triggered, or whatever, whoever does it first, and then you get triggered. If you're able to be with these triggers rather than projecting back and playing the blame game and the tennis, you know, hitting it back and forth, once you actually experience them like this, you can actually see what's happening. And I like to call it the parasite, like the parasite squirming. It's trying to avoid you actually knowing yourself, because if you truly know yourself, that parasite's gone.
So it's trying to survive.
Yeah. and also, like, I don't want to paint it as just bad, because a lot of these conditionings, these habits, they were adapted as a child from someone who didn't know better to protect that child, yourself, from mamai, from feeling unsafe in particular environments. So you learn to shut down, or you learn to be angry, or you learn to protect yourself or attack in different ways. But the trouble is, as a child, we don't know it, we're not conscious, and then into adulthood, like, we don't have rites of passages anymore. Like a lot of indigenous cultures, you know, at certain milestones in their lives, they will be forced to face extreme challenge. And it's through extreme challenge, your comfort zone's completely rocked. So your parasite can't exist there. It doesn't, your identity can't exist there, your conditioning, and you're forced to face yourself. Shit, how do I show up in this scenario? And so, in modern society, we don't have lots of those things anymore. So then you get adults with childhood programs that have never completed their cycles, not even aware of it, running your life, and then you wonder why your relationship's rocky. Like most relationships, 50% of marriages end in divorce, and the other 50% that don't, how many of those have settled for familiarity over prosperity, abundance, bliss, true love, freedom of expression? How many relationships are truly like that versus you've learned to coexist with your conditioning?
To coexist, bro, that's like a big one. And like relationships, as you say, is like those mirrors. You know, it's like you're constant, you know, like where are the blockages, or what are the things that are still yet to be, I guess, worked through. And, you know, that's been very much so evident in my experience of relationships, but being in like a beautiful container now, where there's space to be able to work on things, or there's those mirrors there to be able to reveal. And every single time, you know, you see it and you work through it, man, it just adds so much more to that aroha, or that seeing and being accepted. And so it's just nice, bro, to, I guess, be going through this process of connecting to self, but then what comes from that, which is like a huge shift of what I've been navigating through, is bringing all the focus there, you know, like bringing all the focus, like, where is this coming from? And even when I've been feeling overwhelmed leading up to this wānanga, or feeling stressed, and I guess the things that are on my plate, I can see myself going out of that being and into survival and just getting through. And so through recognizing that I didn't get to that point of doing what you did, which is I just needed to actually just chill, surrender into it, to allow it to be felt, rather than just trying to get things done, which is what I'm just, as I'm talking to you, is just something that I'm realizing that I was doing in this week of feeling overwhelmed and stressed. I was just trying to do to try and not feel overwhelmed, as opposed to leaning into it, which is like pretty cool now that you say it, and where I was just more recently. So, me and kōrero here, bro, we're going to go out into our whānau.
Well, just quickly, my bro, shall I finish the circles? Shall I finish the circles?
Well, you were meant to finish the circles. You can finish the circles later, bro, because that's another 20 minutes. All right, whānau, so we're going to come out for some questions. Any questions that we've got from the whānau? Yes.
Can you finish the circles?
So like if you think about it, I said earlier, you got to value that. Most people don't even know there's any value in feeling your feelings. Like we're told facts over feelings, catch flights, not feelings, all that kind of stuff. So first you got to value it, and the best way to value it is to see the disease that exists everywhere through your life. And I don't mean this like it sounds shitty, like your disease, but it's built on the vibration of scarcity, of fear, of survival, and that's all that it can make. And so first you got to value it, and that hardship's really valuable for that. And then it's valuable to be able to experience it. So like I was just kind of speaking about, opening yourself up to feel the modi that runs within you. I'm not Christian, but Jesus was to say the least, he was on. And he said the kingdom of God is within you, right? And to me, this is just the Holy Spirit, right? Like the Holy Spirit that they talk about in the Bible. And so it's your connection there, which is really who you truly are. So that's why I say the inner circle is the connection to yourself and to God, or to whatever your name for that is. And then outside of that, next circle, if you're in one, is your relationship, your union, because your union is your mirrors to cleanse yourself as individuals and yourself as a unit, as a codependent unit of these things, because nothing brings up your conditioning more than when you get through the honeymoon phase and you get to the phase of, okay, I'm going to reveal my true self, and you feel rejected or attacked or whatever it may be within the dynamics of a relationship. Most people get stuck there, and they end up, a life of either projection, so fighting, or suppression, numbing our feelings, not speaking our truth for fear of conflict. So you get the union right, and then especially as a tāne, or like I'll just speak because that's me, is from being able to carry out my purpose in life, if that's fed by the direct channel to wairua that the feminine possesses, meaning she's comfortable, she's safe, she's protected, she's provided for, she's able to be in her energetic essence as well. And she's like, there's this whole idea of 50-50 in relationships, bro. I think it's bullshit. Why? Because if the tāne can carry like as much load as possible, first of all, it trains you to be a stronger man, to have a stronger backbone, to be able to be a greater leader in every environment that you're in. And then it allows your wahine to soften, to open herself more directly to wairua, and then that energetic essence feeds the masculine in terms of the energy for your combined purpose. And so I'm not like, it's not that wahine can't have a purpose and they can't do this, like they can. But part of the problem within union a lot is that wahine they usually carry more than the tāne. And so they're hardened, and so they're closed up, they're tired, they can't be. They got to think too much, they got to plan too much, because us tāne are pretty hopeless these days. And imagine if you could allow your wahine to be truly feminine and flow, And then you get all the things that you want as a man out of a wahine, and then you get this energetic force propelling you on your purpose. So that's that. And it's, as a union, you're not meant to be independent either. You're meant to be not sorry, I said codependent a few times, didn't I? Not codependent, you should be interdependent, which means you're dancing, the masculine and feminine dances. And though you both have the ability to hold both, if you embody your innate roles more, your impact or your ability to experience more by your wahine holding the feminine pole, tāne holding the masculine pole, your area of influence expands. You can do more as a collective than you can alone. And then, anyway, just quickly, the last two circles.
Nice out.
The last two circles are your whānau units. So if your wahine isn't triggering you anymore, your kids will. So for me, for example, I don't believe our kids come for us to teach them. They're here. Their purity is here to prune our programming, because they're more connected, they're more pure, they're less conditioned. So it's, the reflex to want them to shush, or the reflex, like, stop your emotional reactions, or this and that. Why are we whakama of them playing up? What are we actually worrying about? How it makes us look, or what other people might think? So what's that? They're giving us a gift to show us, bro, you're still like caring what people think, as opposed to us teaching kids how to behave. Like, when I hear people say, oh, your kids are really well behaved, I was like, that, to me, it's not really a compliment, because what they're really saying is they know how to be quiet. They know how to do what they're told. I don't raise kids like that. And that's why my kids are lippy and we homeschool. But anyway, outside of that, the family unit, the last circles, everything else, your outer purpose, your mahi, your impact on the community. Like, I don't see the point. I see it a lot of being out here in the community, especially a lot of tāne, out here in the community trying to save the world, and I go home and, like I was describing with myself, the family unit's not right. The whare tapawha is not right. But we're out here trying to build from that foundation.
Yeah.
And it's shaky ground. So anyway, that's my circles, bro.
But it's a mean way to actually go about it, though. Like, when you see it in that view, it's almost like, make sure that, what is it, like, check your own garden or backyard first.
Yeah.
It's like coming back to that tried and true kōrero, that if we can just take a bit more time. But, as we're talking, it's becoming a lot more clear to me, and what I've even been sharing with the whānau here is that we can distract ourselves with the things that are good.
Yeah.
And then that means we avoid the things that we don't want to look at.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we're at the center of it, because we have to feel all of those emotions to get to that, that being, or that part of you that can then, I guess, do things a bit more freely and comfortably, or with more integrity, I suppose. And then going out into the whānau, or into your relationship and into your whānau, that is the next point. But it just feels like the way we've been conditioned, it's like a slower process to get to where you think you want to be, which is, if I go hard and do this, I'm going to get there, but at what sacrifice, at what cost?
Yeah, and who actually wants to be there? Is it actually you, or is it your conditioning?
Or is it the conditioning?
So you're chasing the wrong dreams.
What we're hearing here, it's been the conditioning, for many of us. And so, any other question out there, te whānau? Yes, Chelsea?
My question, when you were speaking earlier about the tāne holding it down, I guess, for the wahine to step into that part of herself. If we're thinking about being, and if you're experiencing the opposite, so wahine experiencing a tāne that doesn't have that capacity and may potentially not in the lifetime together have that capacity, is that something, obviously we're looking at mirrors, right? So at mirror reflection, it reflects back where I, as an example, am not internally free. Is that something that you stay in to continue to be mirrored back to you, or is it, at what point do you decide to move forward? I understand intuition, I understand, following that side of it. So is that in the being, you already know, I guess, like when to move and when not to move, but that I want to extend that out into any situation, but that's just one situation.
Yeah, so, like, to begin with, you're right in the sense that, or you intuitively already know, that if you're questioning it, it's because you're not connected, and that's why you don't know whether it's time to move on, whether it's time, whether you want to stay in and utilize the mirrors for your own expansion, and the expansion of your loved one. Only you can know that, and it's the process of going back to that inner circle in order to find that knowing. But what I will touch on here, which is pretty, I would say, almost controversial, is this different for wahine and atani. Like, I'm not speaking about this as my opinion, and it's also like, take it or leave it, you know what I mean? If this doesn't resonate with you, but just observe and look what nature reveals to you as evidence. But for tāne, in our role, if we're embodying the masculine, is to provide the outer protection and the safety, and then that allows you to be. And if that's not in place, as a wahine, what you'll find is frustration, rage. The feminine, it's the gift the feminine provides the masculine is a what's up. The gift the feminine provides the masculine is it can see and sense everywhere where that man is not tika, not holding it down, not holding the fort. And a natural consequence of that is fucking rage, anger. And it's not like
from the tāne or the wahine?
From the wahine towards the tāne. And yeah, there can be conditioning in there. Wahine can have their own trauma and distortion, and there can be projection, and they might need to do healing on their own shit as well. But if this is like what I'm speaking to at its pure form, is the feminine calling on the masculine to step up into their role. And it's the gift that the feminine offers the masculine. And then from there, this is why they say, you know, the role of the masculine is to lead. The masculine leads in a way to provide the safety, but from there, once the feminine can surrender her will, and by surrender her will, I mean descend through all the conditioning and instead stay connected to intuition and live from there, because wahine are more attuned at that. If they can do that, then actually they end up leading the unit. It's the kōrero of the tāne is the head, but the wahine is the neck that turns it. That's actually what it is, because wahine generally have the direct channel, and because the safety's there within the safe, so the masculine leads externally to provide the safety, and then the feminine leads from the inside through the direct channel.
100.
And so to you, I can't tell you, you know, what's the point, you should stay or go, or all these different things, but
there's a part of you that knows.
Yeah. And also, if you are to stay, know that the natural role of it is to call the masculine up with it, and whatever that true expression actually is, not the conditioned version, not the watered down version. I'm talking the version that loses it in the grocery store. I'm talking the version that is free. If you can find your own safety with your own direct connection to God first, and find your the safety of the masculine there in some way, then yeah, you can be free to express. But yeah, when you get in union, there is an interdependence that happens, and the ideal, or so I've learned, the ideal like scenario is that you actually start to worship the divine with, not worship, sorry, but you surrender your will to the divine within your tāne, not to him specifically, but to his presence. And so anyway, I'm kind of going around, but long story short, it's normal for you to get angry at that situation. But tāne, the other way around, because our role is to create safety, we want to go, and this isn't a hierarchy thing. It's something I only learned the other day from my mentor, Philip. But he said there's a reason it goes God, tāne, or he's not Māori, he didn't say it like this, but God, tāne, wahine, children, as in the family unit. It's not hierarchical. It's like, it's natural order, like a code. An example of that is in creating life. The tāne provides the seed. He goes first. And then the wahine magnifies that and creates life. She brings wairua into the physical. So if we just realign ourselves with these natural orders, then we bring harmony back. And because we're out of this and it starts within, that's why the world's out of balance, or at least our world. And so for tāne, it's different. We're meant to go, because that order that I said, we're meant to go direct to God One of my biggest wānanga right now is not sharing any of my shit with Renee. And some people don't like that idea. You're a unit, you should. But if I can do that and not do it out of suppression, not do it out of self-sacrifice, but do it out of I actually am good because I'm giving it to I'm working through it, as I explained earlier, with that fire, then she doesn't have to carry anything of mine. She's got enough of her own stuff to carry. And if she could do that, she's going to soften quicker, and then you get that balance that I spoke about.
One thing that I want to say there, at some point, something needs to change, though, in that scenario of always being in some kind of situation and things keep popping up and things keep not changing or improving, and that feeling is still there. There has to be some shift required, and that shift is either a decision to move into a new space or a decision to double down even more into the surrender. And so both, I feel, can create some amazing things out of it, but both are also going to require some level of a change, and that's the uncomfortable part, for both. And like coming back to this point here, to like what you said in like a more personal space, is like, I really understand the difference between the masculine and the feminine. And I guess even in the situation that I'm in, that we've been talking about with the finances, and like I've told Henepania the realities of it. And what I noticed straight away was she didn't feel safe. She went into survival mode as well. And that created like a bit of a disconnect on what I was needing from her. Because, there's that whole kōrero around, being open and sharing. And so I wanted to like embody that and be able to communicate. But as I communicated, it just created a different, the response needed for me as a husband, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And her response for the family was to do more. But we've had a mean-ass conversation about it since then. And like the way that I communicated with her, that I'm sharing with her just so that she is aware. It wasn't to project or put on her, but what I needed from her as a husband was actually to lean in and just to be a bit more, not to say that she isn't, but just to comfort in that space.
Yeah.
But that was just a interesting thing that I've just gone through because of the situation. But then the other thing that I keep telling her, and this is for all of our wahine, like, yous are the key, man. Like I tell Pani all the time, like, you're the key. If you move, it's way easier for us to follow. Like in terms of what I mean by that is when she decides to do something and her energy shifts, and her energy shifting into like a more space where she's got that connection to self, it just lifts everything up. And so what I've always want to encourage her is like, you're the key, but I can, guide like where things are going. And so mean partai. Thank you, Chelsea. Beautiful. Yep, Brother Chris.
What does a completed cycle look like? Or like even if you have like one random specific example or something, like, was there a point where you knew it was completed, or like how did you know? Like what did that completed look like?
Yeah. Well, it's, back to being connected to yourself, you'll know. Like you'll know. And it can come up in many different ways. I described my own version of it earlier, where there was just this massive release. But the evidence in your life will be in seeing that the cycle's not coming back anymore. And like when I said the fog lifts, you can actually see the things that used to trigger you or the things that used to trip you up before. You see them coming, and you're like, you can sidestep them, or you can approach them differently. So you'll know because your awareness has lifted, and you're not getting triggered or shaken by the same things. You're not leaning for the same crutches. You're not going for the same ways to disassociate or whatever it may be. Yeah, because they might be quite subtle. Like that one I shared about the judgment thing, that was really obvious. But some of the stuff with Renee and I around our relationship has been way more slow and progressive. But then we find ourselves in a situation like the other day. I said to her, I was like, far we're doing, like, we're good as at the moment, and we just both, like we are. And it's and because a lot of the time, like we even had this joke. We were saying like, "Oh, we're the best we've ever been," and then like 2 days later, we'll
Something
blow up.
happens, yeah.
Yeah, and that happened like 4 or 5 times because we started like catching the pattern, and yeah, we've been really good for a little while now for us, and yeah, like that's the evidence.
Yeah, that life just starts to reveal it, eh?
Yeah.
No further from me. Letitia?
If you could recommend like one tool or one thing to connect to self, do you have anything on that? Like the one major thing?
Just what I described. There's no actual goal. Like most modalities, call them meditation, breath work, journaling, whatever it may be. They all have a purpose, but all of them require your mind to decide to do it. And I guess that's the case here too. But the only real goal is to let go. So to not try and control. Don't control your breath. Don't try to control anything. Just open. And it's a descent into self. And it's really, like I said, it's actually so simple. It's just actually relaxing. And the best way to go deep is to lie on your back. And there's more to it. And I just want to reiterate again, they don't like calling it my mentors don't like me or anybody calling it a method. But the way you do it was, I guess, they wouldn't even say they made it, but maybe discovered by my mentors, Philip and Amanda Lee Atta. And the way they've found to get the deepest or to go in is to lie flat on your back, no pillow, all that sort of stuff. And just what I do is I just use my attention simply to find where I'm carrying tension, where I'm holding on. And it's real easy when you're elevated. It's kind of tough sometimes when it's just you're good, like it's subtle. But you'll find some of those like real sneaky ones are really subtle. And so it could take years. It's a process of like an onion, peeling layers of distortion of like you could go anywhere with it in terms of feelings that come up, anxiety, depression, all these different things, reasons why people avoid feeling. But one of the more common ones is just boredom. Like, can you just be alone with yourself? Like, how many people sit on the toilet and just do that?
Have no phone.
Like, not many. How many people, catch a bus or whatever and they just do that? And so, yeah, getting used to that, getting used to being with yourself and opening yourself to whatever comes up, whatever that looks like. And the cool thing about this process is you can do it to the level of your capacity. So if you find you start touching on something, fuck, this is a bit much, I don't want to go into this, you can go back to your breath. You can pull yourself out of it that way. And it's like sometimes things like breath work, like I've had heaps of mean experiences on breath work, but they can be really intense. These things you can go open at your pace and you can use the breath to pull you out if you want, or anything really. You can just tap yourself or whatever to pull yourself out. So it's a lifestyle. Like it really is. So I'm doing it now. I do it every time I remember to do it. Basically, and when I'm not doing it is when the conditioning's taken over. I've gone on autopilot. So it's I said it's the interface to reality too, because it actually brings you here as well. Because you can't, as far as I know, think and feel at the same time. So if you're feeling, tapping in, you're not in your head. So yeah, just relax.
It's probably like, what we're talking about is where you're at now. And I think the cool thing about being in a space like this is that what you're sharing is a way to get to that quicker. Yeah. What I mean is like there are whānau out there who haven't even gone down the meditation route or have gone down reading a book or have gone down going into nature walks or going into training. Like, those are what we've been told as a way of doing the work or filling up your cup. And I do all of those things, and those are things that I really enjoy, and they do help. And so is there something like within that can be like a stepping stone into this, or is there, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because there's more of that as well.
Well, it was for me. So yeah, can be, but I would just say that you don't actually need anything outside you. You don't actually need it. Like sometimes those things become entertainment. Like you said, you enjoy doing them. So they become something that you do because you enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with it. No, that's what we're here for. We're here to experience things. But the truth is we don't need books. We don't need podcasts. We don't need a guru. all we need to do is to go back here, and just some people don't know how to get there. It's just helpful having community at times, other mirrors, to be able to come to and fess up your shit, because one of the first steps of being is to see. You know, enlightenment sounds like this big, almost unattainable place. But at least my perspective on enlightenment is just to be able to see. You bring light to the shadow. So that becomes before embodiment. Embodiment, so you got to be able to see your shit, and mirrors help you see your shit. So when we're here in wānanga, you know, we're at home by ourselves or fighting with our partners, you lie to yourself. When you're here and the sis opens up about this and the bro opens up about that, you know, oh, fuck, actually, I got some shit too. and so those mirrors help you see yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you see yourself, now you're at the truth of who you are now, at your distortion, but not your essence. But that's the pathway.
Lovely, lovely. We'll go one more question, Te Whānau. Is there any more questions out there?
E hoa, letting ourselves go and allowing things to come. Man, I get so overwhelmed, and I gotta ask my tūpuna to slow down a bit, ne? So that I can just let me breathe a little bit. Other than the breath work, which I really appreciate that, I've not tapped into that space before. How else could we or anyone else that experiences this navigate? It's the pace is so fast, e hoa. Also, I'm speaking from a space of exhaustion. I'm tired. Yeah, can I give you that?
We always got to start with the truth of where we are. And for you, it sounds like exhaustion, overwhelm. So feel into that. What does exhaustion and overwhelm truly feel like when we're not trying to cover it with more doing and more productivity?
That's right.
Have you allowed yourself to truly feel exhausted, to truly feel overwhelmed? Have you let yourself get overwhelmed? And yeah, like it might get repetitive and boring, but the process is the same. Allow yourself to feel that, open yourself to exhaustion and allow yourself to experience that. And it's a kind of a scary place, especially for someone who I've heard carries a lot, because what can start happening is your world starts crumbling. Like all the things you held up with your old identity, your mahi, your fam, like just different things, even relationships, because they're built on these shaky foundations of, they call it need, or whatever, trying to chase something that is actually already there. Yeah, like living intelligence, life, God has a way of burning everything that's not true and real for you, not tika for you, because you've been, if you have been living out of alignment. So once you bring yourself back, like, so for me, I had a business that was like doing really well, and then it burned to the ground. And at the time, it felt like the worst thing ever, or one of the worst things ever. And it brought up all sorts of mirrors. But what I can see in hindsight is that I built that on basically chasing the life, you know, chasing wealth, chasing financial freedom before freedom of myself from my own conditioning. And so, yeah, I'll just warn you, it can burn your fucking life down. but what will remain is what's true and what's real. And like one of the sisters here is sort of going through something like that right now. I heard earlier, and it's actually a beautiful place to be. As shit as it feels, we've been conditioned to avoid negative feelings because they feel bad, and bad's bad. But it's just energy. You know, it's just energy, and that energy is like any other energy, is a messenger to bring us. So I would guess that the energy of exhaustion and overwhelm hasn't actually overwhelmed you and exhausted you yet. You're still going.
Still got a bit there.
And you can keep going that way, but I hear it's tiring.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tuahine. Was there one last one? Did I see your hand going up, Brett? Yeah.
Largely around like talking about nature and nurture, talking about, you know, the fact that we want to reconnect and go back to that very primitive sort of idea of ourselves. And we talk about kids really being open to the subconscious up to about 7 years old. How do we, as parents, as step parents and all that, really nurture that in the kids, nurture the nature side of things, and make sure that they aren't doing this work at 15, 20, 40 years old?
Yeah, beautiful, bro.
Great question.
Like, first of all, this my mentor said this, Philip said this, like, he believes in a couple generations, it's not something we'll have to worry about. The way consciousness is evolving, and you can see it, bro. Look at this conversation we're having right now with, people in their 20s, 30s. Like my brother, he's 19, 20, I think. We have these conversations. Fuck, when I was 20, I wasn't talking about this shit. And so, and then like we homeschool. So what do you think I teach my girl? I'm not teaching her fucking 9 times 9. I'm teaching her this kind of stuff. But even there, the greatest mirror I've received is that the best way to teach it is to be it. And so anyway, to answer your question, just try not to pile as much conditioning on top of them as possible. Try to allow them to be themselves, because they're born that way. They already are themselves. And don't stand on the coffee table. Like, I know, especially like around like things like tikanga Māori, like take your shoes off. There's a place for lots of these things, but at the end of the day, they're just conditions that humans made. And what if we just let life? What if we and the evidence of what that looks like is if you look at nature, when humans don't get involved with it, there's synergy, there's
one of
balance.
The best things about COVID, eh?
Yeah,
you saw it, just everything just come back to life.
Yeah, and I'll just say on that, and that's kind of, I'm veering now, but it's around like goal setting. Like people manifest, they wanna. They have this idea, they want to be, like this was me with my business. I wanted to be wealthy, so I manifested that shit, but it burned to the ground. Why? Because I built it off shaky foundations. We built it, sorry, I had a business partner. But there's a fear around surrendering, because surrender feels passive. Surrender feels like I'm giving up. But surrender is the most proactive thing you could possibly do. It's a choice. You have to choose it. You have to choose to give up your will, basically, and then instead allow living intelligence to guide you, which is your true self anyway. And are you brave enough to move from there rather than what you think you want, rather than what you were raised to want, rather than what your culture tells you to want? Or are you brave enough to move from wairoa in every circumstance and just observe what happens around you when you do? Yeah, and kids do that anyway, bro. So can we protect that from them? Just try not to condition them so much.
Let life. The other one is, just their brave mahi, bro. Like even being here is brave, is because it's part of it, about what we're talking about connecting to that inner self. And, you're seeing parts of yourself where those blockages have been. And the brave mahi is like finding that, or working through that and being able to sit with it. And so just want to like highlight, that word, because it does take a lot of courage to be able to navigate through these things and make these changes and do it in a way that not only is for the outcome or being perceived a certain way or to getting somewhere, but because that's just who you are. So I just want to mihi to you, my brother, for the amazing kōrero, and a mihi to our whānau. It looks like a bit of a big day out, I must say. Our whānau's camped out, got the sunblock out. We've got umbrellas, so everyone can be close. And so the mauri has been felt e te whānau. So thank you all so much, and just want to pass it over to you, bro, for some final words, my brother.
Yeah, but I'll go off the brave thing. It takes you facing your fears to be able to let go. It takes you being willing to stare them in the face. The Bible says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, because he, or God, or whatever the word is in the Bible, but God is with me. You are with me. And that's the knowing that I'm talking about. Personally, I don't believe in a God in the sky that judges and condemns and all that, but the Bible is full of deep mātauranga, and what I believe that's saying is that descend through your shadow, have a look what's in there, be with it, and learn that there's no need to fear it, because who you truly are is the infinite energetic essence that runs through all of life. So what is there to be afraid of? And
infinite energetic essence that flows through all life.
So it's scary because what you've got to let go of is everything you've ever known, everything that you've always thought yourself to be, everything you've always carried, every title you've always called yourself, or every role that you've always done, and going, fuck, what am I when I strip all that back? Kia ora.
Food for thought. Tēnā koe, my brother, and e te whānau, thank you all so much. Hope you fellas enjoyed this live session. And to the ones watching, give it up, e te whānau, give it up. And to the ones watching, catch you in the next one. Tēnā koe, brother. Let's go.
Hit my mic, bro.